Final Fantasy XVI is a game that I personally can't wait to get my hands on, and for me is one of the most refreshing looking things that the series has seen in quite some time. And today we got some brand new information on the game, and it could be coming a lot sooner than we initially thought. First and foremost, the game is being given a provisional rating of PEGI 18. This suggests that Final Fantasy XVI is targeting a mature audience, something that I felt like it was time for the series to do for a long while now. And this means the game being M-rated is pretty much all but confirmed, and it'll make it the first M-rated mainline Final Fantasy title, and the second Final Fantasy title ever, with the first being Final Fantasy Type 0, to bear the M rating. Again, I think this is great. Final Fantasy fans are older now, and this allows them to do pretty much anything story-wise. And as we've seen from the trailers, they don't hesitate to show blood, so this is going to be a very different Final Fantasy. One of the biggest concerns with Final Fantasy 16, or any Final Fantasy game, or really any Square Enix game, is that the game is going to take some absurd amount of development time in order to finally release, with many of their past games being revealed 4, 5, 6 years before they even launched. And we've been given numerous indications that this is not going to be the case with Final Fantasy 16. According to industry journalist Jason Schreier, speaking on Triple Click Podcast, Final Fantasy 16 has been in development for, quote, at least 4 years in some capacity. Schreier credits sources who are familiar with the game's production apparently. This is pretty huge and represents a giant shift in the way that Square normally handles things. For context, Final Fantasy VII Remake had only been in development for 1 year when it was first announced at E3 2015. A similar situation is also true for Kingdom Hearts 3. And when they showed off Final Fantasy 13, there really wasn't even a game yet. It was just render targets. The game's producer Naoki Yoshida is aware of the criticism that Square Enix announces games way too soon. He's also aware of the criticism of the game's graphics in the reveal trailer, with Yoshida saying, quote, I didn't want the trailer to just be a rendered cutscene and bam, logo. I wanted to use resources that were moving in-game, in real time, but the timing wasn't best for it. We haven't tuned it or optimized it yet, so there was a lot of work to be done. But if we released a pre-rendered trailer, they would say, alright, see you in 2035 or something. I've seen those kinds of comments from America. So we really wanted to show something that was actually in-game. We haven't shown the highlights of the game in this trailer, so that will come later when we make it properly. Now, I've seen a lot of people online who've interpreted this as he's saying that Americans are disrespectful or something, but personally I don't read it that way at all. I read it more like he's aware of the criticism that Square announces games super early, like right at the beginning of their development, and the reveal trailers usually just show CGI with a target of what the gameplay should look like, and then go very long stretches without any real information. And so I think what Naoki is saying here is that he's aware of that criticism and it's very real to him, and this is him basically saying that he's addressing that by showing us real gameplay with real in-game graphics, which again I think is phenomenal, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the approach that he's taking here. In fact, it's the approach that Square should have been taking for quite some time now, and we won't have to wait long for the next update on the game either. Square Enix is planning to launch a teaser website for Final Fantasy XVI in late October, and it's slated to have some new information about the game's world and characters. However, in terms of the game's next big information reveal, that's set for 2021. This game is coming relatively soon, but it might leave you wondering exactly when. If I'm not mistaken, Final Fantasy XIV is likely to have a new expansion coming summer of 2021, though with a possible delay to the fall as the pandemic kind of slowed them down and resulted in the delay of one of the most recent patches. It's pretty likely, however, that Square would want to space that from the Final Fantasy XIV expansion. I also imagine they want to give people time to buy PlayStation 5s, and not just launch the game to an install base with no consumers yet. So if I had to make my own prediction, I believe the game will launch Q2 to Q3 of 2022, and I think around mid-2021 is when they're really going to start pouring on the information real thick. And then and basically they'll have a year plus or minus to market the game and get the word out there that the 16th Final Fantasy is coming. At least that's how I personally see it working out, but I want to hear what you think. So Ultima, when do you think Final Fantasy 16 will launch? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if this channel means a lot to you, be sure to check out the Patreon for the Night Sky Prince, where I'm supported by incredible people like Annie. And if you want to support the continued growth of the channel, there's a link in the description below. Shout out to Annie and the rest of the Ultima community.